All right, everyone. Pilar Arias, your host for News Now for the next about hour and 28 minutes, hour and a half, right? Want to properly say hello. Let's get everybody all caught up again with some of the day's top stories and headlines. Of course, as you can imagine, plenty of ceremonies and remembrances across the U.S. today in honor of those lives that we lost on 9/11 17 years ago. I feel like the most common stories you hear on a day like today is where people were when they heard the news. I was in 8th grade at the time. I was getting ready for school, and I always had the news on in the morning as I was doing so on the tiny television set I had in my bedroom at the time. And I remember watching the coverage of the first tower, and then I witnessed live the second tower get hit by a plane. And so it's those things that we seem to always remember this time of year, and you know that phrase never forget just always comes to mind. So of course I'm going to start today's top story segment with a 9/11 related story.
It has been 17 years, but it is as if not one day has gone by.
To my mom and to all of you and your loved ones, never forget.
Yet again, there was a solemn and somber gathering of people honoring those who lost their lives on 9/11. Ceremonies at the World Trade Center, Shanksville, Pennsylvania, and the Pentagon, remembering the nearly 3,000 people who lost their lives. The memories are overpowering to some, but the response to this tragedy remains inspiring to others.
On September 11th, 2001, a band of brave patriots turned the tide on our nation's enemies and joined the immortal ranks of American heroes. At this memorial on this sacred earth, in the field beyond this wall, and in the skies above our heads, we remember the moment when America fought back.
The effects of the terrorist attack are still being felt today. Many first responders and others continue to come down with illnesses linked to the debris here. So far, 1,700 have died from 9/11 related illnesses. At the World Trade Center, I'm Eric Shawn, Fox News.
That's possibly the saddest news of it all 17 years later, is we're still having victims of the 9/11 terror attacks. I know years ago, 2011, I was actually in New York City, and I visited the World Trade Center Tribute Center, and that was quite emotional experience, as you can imagine, seeing all the pictures of all the victims there and what was left behind. Okay, this next top story I have for you, on the East Coast, they're preparing for Florence. Well, on the West Coast, Hawaii in particular, they are also preparing for some weather.
It's all the buzz at baggage claim. Just what exactly will Hurricane Olivia,
if it's just wet and rainy, we can deal with that,
throw at Hawaii?
Half of my crew can't swim, so.
Travelers touching down from the Golden State in the Aloha State ahead of that storm.
The first time I came was with my family, and now I'm coming with my own family.
Anna and Alan Jansen from Los Angeles and those 8-month-old twins,
Identical twin boys, yes.
will admit they hadn't even heard of Olivia until today.
No, when you said hurricane, I thought the past hurricane. I'm like, oh no, we're good. Like, that's past, right?
Like other flyers we caught up with, they're determined not to let the forecast spoil their visit.
Wind could be a little interesting.
It'll be fun, though. We're looking forward to it. Tropical storm.
Yeah.
We'll have a story to go
We'll
home
have
and
a
talk
story,
about.
totally.
Their
First family trip, and we get a storm.
Bags in hand, a trip to the supermarket is in order for some.
We're going to Costco to get a few things right now, since the sun is out.
No matter what Mother Nature throws their way, that family of 4 has a new motto for whatever lies ahead.
We're just going to get one diaper at a time.
And it's not just those families flocking to the islands. We've also bumped into plenty of people here for business. And of course, those Hawaiian honeymooners. At the Daniel K. Inouye International Airport, I'm Cole Miller for KHON 2 News.
Oh, so sad. Everybody seems to be preparing for weather regardless of where they're at or where they travel to. All right, continuing our national top stories tour here, we're going to take you to find out about a boy who survived a face-first fall on a meat skewer.
He could have bled to death in that field, covered in yellow jackets.
Shannon Miller has never been as scared as he was then on Saturday afternoon.
It was just a feeling of terror.
His 10-year-old son Xavier was climbing this treehouse with friends when a group of yellow jackets began attacking them. Xavier fell 4 feet off the ladder and headfirst onto a meat skewer.
He was more upset about the yellow jackets than he was about the metal piece sticking out of his face.
The skewer was about a foot long, nearly went all the way through to the back of Xavier's head.
It missed his brain, it missed his brain stem, it missed, the nerves, everything that is this valuable in your head, it missed everything.
As a team of surgeons at the University of Kansas Hospital worked on a plan to remove the object,
there were several plans. There's a plan A, B, and C.
Xavier's family turned to their faith in God.
And I said, Lord, I don't care. I said, I don't care. I know you have a plan. I said, if it's your will to take him, take him.
The Sunday surgery took hours, but ultimately was a success.
All I can remember is laughing and crying and cheering and just the support of my friends and family, It's powerful.
Miller says it was a test of his family's faith, but they never doubted God's plan.
Only God could have directed things to happen in a way that would save him like this. That was a miracle. It was a miracle.
Wow, when you see those pictures of that boy, can you imagine? That's good thing that he survived, right? Okay, well, this next story is about a gator that attacked a man in Florida has been caught.
An 11-foot alligator trapped and hauled away from a lake in Clearwater. Minutes earlier, witnesses watched this same reptile try to drag a man under.
They thought he slipped, so they heard him say, "He got me, he got me."
According to investigators, Richard Peel was trying to retrieve a disc used for disc golf out of a lake at Cliff Stevens Park. Peel was getting out of the water when a large gator pulled him back in. Derek Moody lives nearby and heard witnesses explain how they linked arms to save the man's life.
So I guess they ran over and they kind of formed a ladder with each other and they was able to pull him out.
Florida Fish and Wildlife called out trappers to remove the alligator from the lake.
The alligator was seen prior to him going in the water, so we always recommend that people stay away from the water, murky waters.
Experts also removed a smaller gator as a precaution. Folks who regularly go fishing at the lake are breathing a sigh of relief.
Kind of shocking to me. We've been down here fishing the last few days and we've been standing right on the bank, and God forbid that happened to one of us.
They might be lucky, but not as fortunate as the man who escaped a gator's jaws.
When a 10-foot gator getting a hold of you and he's starting to do a gator roll, not too many people really make it out of there.
All right, another frightening animal story for you. Talked about it with Mike at the end of News Now on Fox 10 Extra. That's Channel 45, Cable 9, by the way. We also have news at 7 o'clock on the same station. If you're in Arizona, please tune in. Have you ever woken and found something that you shouldn't? Whether animal, person, like a burglar, intruder, anything of the sort. This woman woke to find a coyote in her bedroom.
It's almost too much to fathom. You're in a deep sleep when all of a sudden you are startled awake by a loud noise.
It's around 4:15. All of a sudden we hear it sound like a cat fight almost.
At first, Bonnie Moriarty just thought it was her cat and dog getting into a scuffle.
I woke up and a cat and the coyote came running into my room. It's still dark.
Bonnie says she can hardly believe her eyes, so she grabbed a nearby golf club for protection.
Well, my husband was out of town, and so my poor kids are upstairs and I'm screaming.
Bonnie thinks the coyote most likely came from this wooded area back here. At one point, she says her miniature schnauzer came running in, barking up a storm. But the coyote just crouched down in the corner and remained timid.
And that's when I realized, holy crow, I've got a coyote stuck in my bedroom.
By that time, she says her kids were wide awake, and so she called the Bixby Police Department.
Well, we shut the bedroom door, and they came with, I'm sure there's a term for it, but on a stick with a little loop. So I had 3 policemen in my bedroom trying to get the coyote out.
Using the catcher poles, 2 of the officers were able to get the loops around the coyote's neck and carefully pull it outside and release it safely back into the woods. Bonnie believes the coyote may have gotten through her back door after it saw her cat.
He somehow just lunged at the door and the door opened.
Wow. Coyotes and mountain lions are all very common here in Arizona, but I still think if I were to see a coyote in my bedroom, I would also be screaming, probably at the top of my lungs, and not quite sure exactly what to do. All right, I do want to show you that we are still waiting for Heather Nauert to come out any moment for a State Department briefing. When she does, I will have that for you live. Meanwhile, I'm going to take you out to Polk County, Florida, where the sheriff is telling us about what's being called Operation Dirty Jail Mail. Turns out 9 people have been arrested for attempting to sneak in K2 spy synthetic marijuana into the jail. Let's watch.